Are you gonna do the intro music?
Hey Phil, are we recording yet?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
going.
All right, let's try this. There we go. It's a little quiet, Phil. There we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Crackpot, the podcast where each and every week we dive into a different conspiracy theory, and we also discuss the merits or the demerits of each. We're your hosts. I'm Tim.
And I'm Zach.
Thank you all for coming.
Guys, thanks so much
Give
for
yourselves
coming.
a round of yes.
This is for you guys, not for us. Seriously, this is huge.
This is awesome. This is so exciting. We've been talking about this for a long time. It's here. It's happening. And we need to thank our generous and gracious hosts, solstarecords.com. Everybody, one more round of applause. Solsta Records, by far the greatest record store in all of the lower 48, potentially even the Western Hemisphere, I think.
Probably the universe.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Tim, I don't live in the Twin Cities, but I do want to buy records. Check it out online, solstarecords.com. You can go and dig through the crates. You can find new releases, old stuff, new stuff, you name it. They're great. They're fantastic. They will mail it to your doorstep. Phil will personally deliver each and every record. Yes, he's nodding. Perfect. Okay. Anyway, thank you all once again. And Zachary, what are we talking about today?
Well, folks, as you know, or I think you probably know, we've been doing a Halloween Spooktacular every year. And I got to say, it's a little bit awkward to try to run the board, all this stuff at the same time. But the Halloween Spooktacular. So I was trying to think, I was thinking about this. We've done a number of different topics. We did possessions. We did ghosts.
Yep.
We've done...
Black-eyed children?
Yes, that's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
I was blanking there for a sec.
Uh-huh,
We've done a couple of different ones here. And this one, folks, I got to say, I am not kidding you. This is actually really spooky tonight. It actually really is. It's actually scary. And the reason is because today we are talking to the dead. And today we will actually attempt to talk to the dead.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
but it should be really, really super fun, and we'll see where that goes. But folks, you are along for the ride here, so thanks for hanging in there with us.
All right. So we're going to be opening up a different dimension and talking to the deceased.
Most likely.
Okay, great.
We'll get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go too far, because Tim, as I recall, you are somebody who's come down hard, come down firm in saying, hey, look, I'm not a ghost guy. I'm not into ghosts. I don't believe in them.
Is anyone into ghosts? So okay, no.
Well, actually, no. We should ask. Is anybody here into ghosts?
Into ghosts? Yeah, right. I'm getting a big no from the audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's come back to where we started, which is, Tim, what is your belief in ghosts?
I have been firmly on the record as saying that I do not believe in ghosts. But, Zach, I've been thinking about this. Honestly, there are so many people who have just weird encounters and bizarre phenomenon that happen to them and just things that cannot be explained. And for me to just point blank say it's not real is almost tantamount to calling them liars, and I don't want to do that. So I am slightly adjusting my position on the fly, on the spot, to be ghost agnostic.
Really?
Kind of. I mean, you and I, we've read enough things and seen enough weird documentaries at this point that it's hard to disbelieve everything. So I don't want to, but I am open to the possibility.
So let me ask you this question then. Interdimensional Bigfoot?
Yes. Absolutely.
More than ghosts or less than ghosts?
Jury's out, man. I think they're kind of even.
Okay, fair enough. Well, over the years, I've evolved my stance because at first I was like, I think I believe. I think I do. And I realized that I do, but I'm just uncomfortable admitting, basically as a 40-year-old person, that I am, okay with ghosts or believe in them. So for me, it's a little bit weird, but I got to be honest, I think between the two of us, I'm much more open to the idea.
You're much more comfortable with the idea.
Yes. And despite the fact that you are totally okay with interdimensional, even aliens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everything else. This is the one. This is the one.
This is almost a step too far.
Well, I'm excited, folks, tonight because we are doing a couple of things we've never done before. And I got to say, we've actually, to our knowledge anyway, have never been done in the history of podcasting ever on this planet, as far as we're aware. So we're going to be talking about talking to the dead. And as part of this, folks, we're going to be actually, I bought a spirit box that we're going to be testing later. And I will say, I also tested it last night. We'll be listening to some of the ththings I picked up, or maybe didn't pick up. We'll see.
Oh, really?
But
okay.
Tim has not heard. So Tim doesn't know probably 3/4 of what we're talking tonight. This is 100% real. And so there we go. But I will say, guys, before we jump too much further in, I got to ask. Let's do a quick poll here, the audience. Folks, raise your hand if you're comfortable saying, I believe in ghosts.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
All right. That's about
Okay.
half. That's about half. Oh, and by the way, too, we do want to have some listener engagement. So we have a microphone there, a third mic, in case you have any stories or any anecdotes you want to add to the whatever we're talking about. If you don't, it's okay. But that'd be kind of fun. If you have any ghost stories to add, or as we're talking about some of the different things of talking to the dead, hey, if you have your own insight, love to hear it. So let's jump in here because, Tim, I remember you and I were chatting a long time ago about belief of ghosts, of course, but then also talking to the dead. Have you ever attempted to do that before?
You're talking about the Ouija board stuff?
I'm talking about the Ouija
Yeah. So
You have to tell people this. This is wild to me.
So I had a Ouija board growing up, and I really haven't told you much about it, but I had an Ouija board, and I'm saying that right? Ouija?
Nailed it. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let's roll with it. Yeah, I don't know if I was maybe 10, 8, somewhere in that ballpark.
How did you even get this thing?
I don't know. Like, I assume my mom got it for us just because it was cheaper than a babysitter or something like that. So
It was like 1990, so therefore, yeah, okay.
But no, it was fun. Like, I would do it all the time. I would do it by myself, and I would do it with other people. And I swear, like, 90% of the conversation you have when you do it with someone else is, are you moving it? No. Are you moving it? No. But I swear to God, it moves. And even by myself. And I know, like, intellectually, there's some part of your brain, some subconscious part of your brain that's, like, moving it towards the yes or the no or spelling out letters. But man, it moves. It's weird. It's weird. So yes, I guess I have officially attempted to communicate with the dead.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah.
So I've never tried a Ouija board, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's just enough of my belief in ghosts is just enough. Plus, I was raised in a very, very like conservative Christian household, and so we're talking about demons and stuff all the time, and it terrified me. And so the idea that even the remote possibility of letting a demon in was like not going there. So
Well,
so
now,
40
now
years
look
later,
where
I'm
you
okay
are.
with
Yeah.
it. Anyways, all right. So anyways, since the beginning of time, humans have attempted to somehow communicate with the dead, try to understand, hey, what happens after death?
Okay.
And so through that, humans have tried to actually have, conversations over the years. And sometimes it's, I think, more about symbolism than it is about any actual literal conversation. And so I was, taking a look online at some, common themes of symbolism across, talking to the dead. And one of the things that's very, very common is finding loose change. And so the idea here is, after someone passes, if you're thinking about somebody, perhaps you have a fond memory or, I don't know, just something comes to mind, and then finding a penny or a nickel or a dime or something like that later.
Really?
It's kind of like, yeah, and oftentimes it's years that are significant.
Oh, okay. So it's not just literally finding money in the couch cushions.
Both. It's both. But I think oftentimes it's like, oh, wow, this is 1983,
Okay.
Yeah, we got married or something like that.
Sure. I mean, you do know that, like, you can find coins pretty much anywhere. But okay, no. But I mean, if you did find a coin randomly somewhere you didn't expect to see it, and it did have a significant date, I can definitely see why you would assign some sort of significance to that.
Yeah. And that's like, globally speaking, like that's a big theme. You'll hear about this a lot, finding loose change, especially for significant dates.
I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a real thing.
Okay.
It's proof. Another common one too is birds. In particular, cardinals or other bright birds as being kind of like messengers and saying, "Hey, everything's okay."
Really?
Yes. And I don't.
See, I would think like crows or ravens or something like owls or
a literal murder of
yes,
crows,
a
right?
murder
Yeah.
of crows
Yeah.
reminds you of the murder of your loved one or something. That was
Thank
too
you, Tim.
dark. Okay.
But yes, birds, in particular cardinals and other bright birds, especially ones that are like little and that tap on the windows, let's just say, or, kind of keep an eye on things, letting you know, hey, everything's cool. It's all good. Don't forget about me. But the ones that really kind of freak me out a little bit more than that are actually smelling, like cooking, smelling somebody's old like cigars or the cigarette smoke, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And it's like, that is a real thing that people experience. It's like, oh, I can smell my grandma's Swedish meatballs being cooked right now. And
sure. That is yes. That one I have heard of. The other two I hadn't heard of before, but it's like, again, it's like you can't videotape a smell or take a picture of it. It's like, oh, I smelled cookies. It's like, okay, how do you, not that you have to prove everything, of course, but it would be very hard to prove that. And I wonder again if it's just some part of your subconscious, because smells are very closely linked with memories in the brain. So, you smell a specific thing, it jogs a memory, and I wonder if perhaps it goes both ways.
Well, what I was thinking about through this was, okay, I get it. If like you have your grandpa's old coat and it smells like cigarettes, it's going to just continue, right? But what's unexplained is usually when it's like, if I were sitting in my house and I smelled my grandma's, meatballs or something, I'd be like, that is not expected.
No, and honestly, if it happened to me, I would be 100% proof. Like, I'm not going to pretend.
Actually, that's a really interesting point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just, what you're saying is it's not just some sort of weird kind of like memory thing, like you're actually smelling something.
Exactly, yeah.
A couple other ones here, obviously dreams, communication, after death. Hearing voices, obviously. Feeling a presence. Just literally feeling like somebody's there. And this is the one that kind of drives me a little bit nuts, because everybody here has this like experience, right? Which is, let's just say you're working in the yard, right? And you're just kind of minding your own business, and you just feel like somebody's watching you,
What is that? What is that? It's such a universal thing. It's like you said. I assume everyone. I'm going to speak for myself. Yeah, I know exactly what that feeling feels like, but it's like, what sense is that?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right. And so I think, so to that end, right, so it's like physically, sometimes you turn around, somebody's actually there and looking at you, and you're just like, oh, that's good. It's pretty crazy. But then also, to take it a step further, is the feeling that a lot of people feel after somebody's passed that, so-and-so is here. Tim is here next to me. Tim's hosting with me right now.
Well, I'm not dead yet, so yeah.
All right.
Hopefully you feel my presence, but no, that would just be bizarre to feel an actual presence in the room. Yeah. That I have not experienced.
Or like wind moving, right, and no explanation there. A couple other ones here, a little different stripes, orbs in photographs.
Orbs.
Which, I got to say, guys, as somebody who believes in ghosts, basically, there are, orbs in photographs, to me, like, universally are just specks of dust. That, to me, is a little bit harder to believe, I got to say.
Yeah, they're I don't know. Again, if I took a photo, and I did see something like that, I wonder if that still happens with digital photography as much, because it's like when you see those, it tends to almost always be analog photography.
Yeah. Okay. With a literal like,
like an SLR kind of thing. Yeah.
The thing that I've noticed with my camera on my phone though is I do get those creepy little. I think it's the laser, like where it's the infrared laser or something, where it's detecting the lighting, something like that. Sometimes that'll show up, and I just tell myself that maybe it's a ghost.
maybe just got a ghost phone or something, a haunted phone.
Yeah. Well, it was brand new. Although, never mind. The other thing too is misplaced items, right? Finding something that you misplaced. You're like, hey, this is the thing from so and so. Didn't find it for 3 years.
It just
the same place
pops up, shows up on your countertop.
Shows up one day.
Shows up in your closet or whatever. That would be so bizarre.
That would be really, really something else.
Have you experienced any of these?
No, but I'm waiting for the last one because I do have my great-grandpa's tie clip with his initials in it.
Sure.
I don't know where it is, and I'm hoping that one of these days it just shows up. Like, I'm dead serious.
After your 17 moves, it'll just
That's right.
out of one of your boxes,
Exactly right. But coming back to this feeling a presence thing, I found this to be actually really super interesting. So I was looking into some of the science or the numbers behind some of this stuff, and here's what we found. In the UK, a study of elderly widows and widowers found that 13% had heard their dead loved one's voice. 13%. Like literally hearing it.
Oh, interesting.
Cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Hanging out, watching
just saying something to them. Like they're in the other room or whatever.
Yeah. So like 3% I might think, okay, sure, I get it. 13 is actually, to me, fairly significant. 14% had seen them, which, wow, that's creepy. Or maybe it's comforting, I guess, in that moment. 3% had felt their touch. So that's kind of unique.
So wait, this is in the UK.
Yes.
Older generation, widows.
It
and
just
widowers?
says widows and widowers.
Okay, so
it could be
literally be
age range,
any
but-
age. Yeah.
Yep. But a significant number, or at least a percentage of people had experienced this. The other thing too, and almost 40% said they continue to feel the presence of their loved ones. So again, kind of that feeling that somebody's there watching over, like they literally feel them there, which is fascinating.
I believe it. Like I believe all those people, and that is so unexplainable, at least in my mind.
And kind of the last one was this: 12% said they continue to talk to the person out loud, and so it's that way of like maybe they feel like they're there and they're having some sort of conversation.
And that
but,
makes sense, honestly, for a grieving person or whatever. That, I mean, that's understandable, of course.
I'm with you. But folks, I got to say, so if you raised your hand at the beginning and you're somebody who believes in ghosts, I want to say you're not alone. Some very famous people. We all know that if a celebrity thinks it's okay, that means it's okay, right? So many of you have probably heard about, I'm sure, Kristen Stewart, perhaps, that ring a bell. Keanu Reeves, another big one. Melissa McCarthy, Miley Cyrus, Ariana Grande. And so a lot of famous people have experienced, feelings, a presence, seeing a ghost. These are people that are on the record with it. And in fact, get this, Goldie Hawn and her daughter Kate Hudson famously are clairvoyant.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, I guess they...
Okay.
This is what Kate Hudson said. She said, it's not really seeing dead people, it's feeling a spirit. I believe in energy. I believe our brains can manifest into visual things. When you see something, you're supposed to tell the energy what year it is and that they don't belong there, she said.
What?
And she talked about a story where she saw a ghost woman with no face.
What?
Which I guess, I don't know what's creepier, a ghost woman with no face or with a face?
With a face. Right.
It's like go either way.
No, I had no idea. That's wild.
So folks, if you don't feel bad, don't feel weird. You're not alone. A lot of celebrities have experienced this. But where it gets really super interesting is when you actually talk about moving away from the symbolism, moving away from the feeling, but actually getting into literally trying to communicate with the dead. And that brings us to, of course, mediumship, which, okay, well, have you ever talked to me? I won't do a poll right now.
Yeah, no.
I would I honestly would love to try. I actually think that would be really super, super interesting.
You really would, honestly. Like if we could turn that into a show, that would. If we could go, do they allow? Like, do mediums it's mediums, right? Not psychics.
Okay, so there's psychics, there's mediums, there's clairvoyance, there's psychic, medium, clairvoyance, there's clairvoyance and psychics. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but. In this case, I think the clairvoyant term is preferred just in general.
I just wonder if they allow microphones and stuff in a room like that, because if we could sit down and do that, that would knock my socks off. That'd be so cool.
That'd be really, really super
Next
cool.
Halloween, I'm booking it right now.
Well, we've talked about trying to do this for a show, like actually just have a medium, but generally speaking, they're not open to being recorded, which is a little bit of a bummer for us.
Yeah.
But usually what happens, while talking to a medium is some sort of seance, some sort of ritual happens, right? You've got candlelit, darkening of the lights, and during that time, things happen, right? The medium is supposedly talking to, in some cases, a spirit guide, somebody on the other side who's helping to channel this communication. And in some instances, actual physical things manifest. Ectoplasm. Not just, Ghostbusters.
Like Ghostbusters, ectoplasm.
I was blown away. So
that's a real thing?
It's a real thing.
Quote unquote real thing outside of Dr. Venkman and what?
I think Albert Einstein published something on it back in the day. Here's what I'll tell you. I would highly recommend, there's a Netflix documentary series called Surviving Death. If you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend it. And they do talk a lot about mediums, and they go back and they show a lot of footage of the Victorian age mediums. And what's really crazy is some of the pictures that they have of the ectoplasm.
Really?
It's really bizarre. And I don't even want to get into what it supposally is. It's kind of gross looking, but it is supposedly a manifestation, right?
Is it just the gooey, gooky stuff that?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Oh, they're talking to us now.
Yeah.
Is it a gooey? But okay, so we got ectoplasm. The other thing that often happens is, levitation, right? Things happening, the table lifts off the ground.
Okay, but I mean, we literally talked about this with like Harry Houdini
Yes,
and
yes.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and these guys that would go in, and whether they believed in it or not, they like approached it scientifically. And so much of that is just hucksterism. It's just straight up preying on grieving people that want to talk to others, and it's like the table moving or the walls, whatever. It's like you can't. That's not real. Do you honestly think that's real?
So, okay, so this is actually a really interesting question, because if the question is, do I believe in mediums? I don't know.
Okay.
I actually don't know.
Potentially same. I want to bypass that for a second. But I mean, the stuff dripping off the wall or the table shaking or the fog coming out, under the doors.
That would be so suspicious. A laser light show just appears. You're like, okay, I don't think that's supposed to happen. But I would say that because of the Harry Houdini episode, go back, rate, review, download, subscribe if you haven't already. That episode actually brought out a lot of that stuff, and I was like, oh, clearly, it is hucksterism.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are just charlatans, which is fascinating to me. Right. But I read a couple of really interesting stories from people who've actually been through this experience, and I thought I'd share one here. Actually, I think kind of one longer story from a journalist that writes for Newsweek, who actually went and talked to a spirit medium, which is really, like, super cool.
Okay.
So this gentleman, Robert Calmers, went and talked to Sally Morgan, goes by the nickname Psychic Sally.
Psychic Sally.
Psychic Sally.
Does she spell Sally P-S-Y-A?
No, but that's a miss. That's an obvious miss. I can see the branding there would be genius.
Yeah, she needs to talk to our marketing.
Maybe she's listening right now. Okay, so here's the thing, though. So Robert went in for what's called a cold read, which I'd never really heard of before, but it's basically just showing up. And the idea is, hey, look, tell me something, And the idea is to try to keep the medium guessing. Instead of going there and just revealing everything about yourself, you say, you tell me. And this was his experience. I apologize. I have to actually look at this here. Give me one sec. So this journalist, and I'll just call him Robert. He had said that when he went to go visit the medium, he brought along a photo of his parents taken many years beforehand. The medium looked at it and had said, your father is showing me something in his left hand. A chain. Could be a key ring. And in this moment, the journalist, Robert, was thinking, so what? Who cares, right?
Mm-hmm. Keychain is very innocuous. That's
totally.
Sounds like she's trying to get him to say something, like leading him, like, oh, the key to the...
He loved his car or something like that.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then what she said next, she said, your dad would like you to know that he was claustrophobic, but he didn't realize that at the time. They weren't sure they weren't sure what the condition was called, she said, which is unusual because he said weeks beforehand he had talked to his brother on the phone about his dad, and they both suspected that dad was claustrophobic based on the way he acted going to football games, also while flying and traveling. And so, like, that is one of those really, really weird situations where it's like, like you said, okay, keychain, car, cool, I love my house, whatever, but to have something like that that's so peculiar, which is claustrophobic.
He wants me to tell you that he was claustrophobic. Like, seriously, if you are coming back from the dead to communicate with your loved ones, you want to tell them you're claustrophobic. Like, I'm not even poking or making fun of like her or what she's doing, but that is just such a bizarre thing to
tell us how the dinosaurs died. How'd they go extinct?
What's a lottery going to be the following day? I don't know, man. Okay, anyway, whatever. Dad was claustrophobic. Okay.
Really, really super interesting. And then he said, so Robert said he showed her a photograph of his ex-girlfriend. Didn't mention whether or not she was alive, dead, or a relative or anything else. And that's when the medium just really got going. She said, there's a mental side to this girl. Then he said, I'll say, some people might have described her as a nut. There's a very strong sadness in her and a sense of having been abandoned. Some people destroy relationships before they have run their course because they think they're going to end anyways. She has that feeling. Then she informed me that okay, so anyways, that was that particular conversation. So kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
She
didn't just jump to the conclusion that this woman was dead or a relative or something like that.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. Fascinating.
And then they pivoted again and looked back at that family photo and said, and the medium said, who is Joan? He said, my mother. And Michael John, my brother. Is your mother in spirit? No, she's in Manchester. Well, your mother's mother lost a small child. Not as far as I know. You'd have to ask her about that. A few weeks later, asked the mother, and of course she had an older brother that died while she was younger.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
I can't explain that.
you cannot explain that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Unnerving, potentially.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? So when it's some of that really, really specific kind of like, that could be, like, how do you know that? Like, I guess one thing, if we're going to say, let's be critical about this for a sec, is going to be, he's a Newsweek writer, and maybe if she picked up on that somehow, but still, the claustrophobic thing's weird, and then also just the knowing about the mother's brother, so.
It's fascinating, though.
All right. Let's get back to what we were talking about earlier, though, because this one does actually really creep me out, which is, of course, Ouija boards.
Yes. They're fun, man. Like, we should do a full episode on just Ouija boards.
That was actually, so I really thought about bringing one here. But again, that side of me, that 1% of me that's like, I don't want to do anything. I was like, okay, let's not do that. But Ouija boards, of course, spirit boards, AKA, right, have been around for many, 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 many years. And generally speaking, I think most of us know what they are, but they have, letters, numbers, so you can spell things out, yes or no.
Yes, no, goodbye,
yes.
I think,
That's right, that's right. And it uses a planchette, right? This is that coaster-looking thing that you put your hands on.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't realize you could do it by yourself. Or
No, apparently you're not supposed to, because it like makes the connection with the other side that much more strong or whatever, but it's like whatever, So as far as I know, I'm not possessed or haunted, but jury's out.
I have heard a few stories where you have two people that, let's say there are three people in a room, okay, and the two people are operating the Ouija board, and the third person that's not touching anything is answering or asking the questions, I should say. Oh. And that's usually where it's really weird, when it's spelling out somebody like, oh, who was your babysitter when you were 10? And they say the person's name. Because it's like those two other people would have no idea that are operating the Ouija board. Like, that's the,
I like that.
That's the test.
That's
I've
cool.
looked into
That's
this,
cool.
guys.
Or do it with your eyes closed and see if
How do you know what it's spelling then?
get a third person to check. I don't know.
Okay, but this is supposedly, if you believe science or whatever, explained by science, which, again, I believe the jury's still out on that. Here we go. So according to science, the planchette is guided by, get this, unconscious muscular exertions like those responsible for table movement.
Table movement?
Yeah, like if you bump the table. So if you're like sitting here and you guys can hear us pounding the table by accident, that's, kind of what's happening.
It's similar to a Ouija board, is
Yes.
what you're saying. Okay,
Good. It's spelling things out as we speak. But the unconscious muscle movements responsible for moving the tables and Ouija board phenomena, see at seances, are examples of a class of phenomena due to what psychologists call a dissociative state.
Wild.
And this is when, your unconsciousness is somehow not communicating with your consciousness, right? So you're not thinking about it, but it's moving, and believe it or not, it's almost all just happening through that motor, through your hands moving.
Makes sense.
So that's pretty wild. But again, Michael Faraday described that effect back in 1853. And listen to this. We're still, so people actually still want to know what's going on. So it's funny to me that apparently in 1853 was disproven, but then in 2012 there was another study, which is really funny. And that when answering yes or no questions, Ouija uses a significantly more accurate than guesswork, suggesting that it might draw on the unconscious of the mind somehow. So,
like it's a 50-50 guess.
Yeah, it's going to be
something, the odds are a little
trying to
better than
spell photosynthesis or something.
1 out of 26. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Sure. So, skeptics have described the Ouija board users as operators. Some have noted that their messages are ostensibly spelled out by spirits, similar to whatever was going on through the minds of the subjects. I'm buying a car. Right?
Yeah, right.
Need to pay the house, paid. So, anyways, okay, but I did find a couple of quick, creepy stories from the Ouija board that I had to share with you guys. Number one, while playing with the Ouija board on Halloween, my friends and I asked the spirit to give us a sign, and a transformer blew on the telephone pole in the backyard and knocked out the power.
What? Okay,
Which-
so that's
proof.
yeah.
I mean, that's just objective proof, obviously.
According to the anonymous person on the internet, absolutely 100%.
Well, it's Jessica
yeah.
from Nebraska.
Okay,
so
well, you know what? Yeah, I've never met a
Let's-
dishonest person from Nebraska. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. It's too bad the Huskers lost today, by the way, guys, to the Gophers. Anyways, okay. The next creepy story here. A friend of mine brought a Ouija board to a sleepover, and I never played with one, so I was really excited to try it. My two friends eventually got bored of us as the night went on, so I wanted to ask one last question. I asked the board, do you have any questions for us?
Oh.
It answered, yes. What's your name?
Uh-huh.
It answered, Abe. My friends and I immediately joked that it was Abraham Lincoln, of course. I asked, who do you want to talk to? It answered, Erica. Erica's my mother's name, but she was downstairs and completely not involved in the game, and I asked, what do you want to say to her? It answered, wish I knew her. It's like a really weird thing to say.
It's a little inappropriate, okay.
It's very incredibly specific, and I couldn't imagine what it meant. I ran downstairs to find my mom, and I asked her if she knew anybody named Abe. She said yes. Her grandfather was named Abe, but he died before she was born.
What?
I didn't know my great-grandfather's name, and my friends certainly didn't either.
What?
So that's like a cool one.
Oh, that's cool.
And Abe isn't a super common name, obviously, so,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's Mike or Steve or Tim, you
Right,
might have a
right,
better
right,
chance.
yeah.
Or Zach, you might have a better chance, but I would say that one was like really,
That's
Okay.
interesting. That's interesting.
that is. Anybody have any quick Ouija stories before we keep going? Anybody ever try one besides them?
No,
Anybody?
I'm the only one. Okay.
Okay. Are you guys all kind of freaked out by them too? Yes. Okay. Good. Are you guys
A
glad I
lot
didn't
of
bring one of those
nodding
tonight?
heads, yeah.
Actually, I am too. Okay, but here is where it gets
Dude,
actually.
Ouija boards are literally made by like Hasbro or like Mattel or something like that. Like you can buy them at Target. You don't have to go to your occult,
Which
you
is,
know.
to me, weird. That's what makes it weird.
That's what makes it weird.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, talking to the dead makes it. No, it makes it cool.
But it's a game. It's marketed as a game. It's
Which is, to be funny, why you had one as a kid. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's go play with the Ouija
let's
board.
go summon the evil spirits. Yeah. Well, hey, you know.
But folks, guess what? Because we all know humans have been trying to communicate with the dead for so long. I was looking into who, if anybody, with some science background, some academic rigor, has also been trying this thing. And I found a very interesting quote from one of the most famous Americans, and somebody whose inventions we use every single day, had over 1,000 patents. And I'll read the quote here, and then I'll tell you who it is. And it said, and I quote here, I have been at work for some time building an apparatus to see if it's possible for personalities which have left this earth to communicate with us. So a very, very famous American inventor who is literally trying to build a device to communicate with the dead. Any guesses? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right, the telephone. And that was literally what he was trying to build, was a telephone-like device to talk to the dead.
Did he succeed?
Let
it
me
the
call
Ouija
him up
board?
real quick and see if he did or not. But here's what's interesting. So Mark Hartzman, who was a Edison historian, said that, and hang with me while you guys can here. In a nutshell, Edison believed that humans were made up of something called life units. 100 trillion of them made up a human being and keep us functioning. When we die, the life units move on to someplace else.
100 trillion.
100 trillion.
He counted them all.
Personally,
All-
one by one, probably by hand.
What a specifically odd number.
Yeah, that doesn't help, I don't feel like, from a critical
Life
standpoint. Like, it's a
units.
little bit, yeah.
Okay,
Like, the
yeah.
idea of the life unit's interesting. But then, I was thinking about this, and, guys, political science, not an actual scientist here. What is it? Matter cannot be created nor destroyed or whatever? Something
Energy?
like that.
Energy or
Yeah, approximately.
something like that.
Right?
Yeah, okay. So if you look at life as energy and then it has to go somewhere when you die, then yeah, I mean kind of.
It's
Then
science.
it's like where is it? Is it a ghost? Does it go to an afterlife? Is it, haunting the refrigerator or something like that? It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. The old haunted refrigerator. But that is wild to me to think that, and I guess, if you're going to be like really super critical about it, you might say, well, Edison was obviously most active during the time of, when like mediumship and the spiritual movement kind of took off. And
That's a good
thing, too.
point. It was pretty
It was kind of like, it was pop culture almost
Yeah.
in some ways. And a lot of that, by the way, is a result of the wars that were happening, of course.
and lack of Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. Oof, boy, can't remember those days. But let's talk about what Edison was trying to do, because communicating with the dead oftentimes isn't just like literally having a conversation. Sometimes it's trying to pick up on what they're suggesting. And to that end is something called EVPs, not executive vice president, but do you know what EVP stands for, Tim?
I'm not. No. What? I could try, but no.
Electronic voice phenomena.
Okay.
This is where it gets a little bit weird, kind of. I will be honest with you.
This is the weird part. Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah. This is the stuff that actually is pretty creepy too. But what EVPs are, and for believers of this, they are proof of spirits or a spirit communicating with the living, and it's done through usually capturing sounds or manipulating audio recordings. And so a really super simple example of this is just taking, anybody can do it, right? Take your phone. Actually, let's try it right now. Have total silence, right? Record, maybe leave the room, walk away, come back, check the sound file, and see if anything shows up. And maybe you'll hear something. And that's, at its simplest, what an EVP is.
That's crazy. That would be okay. That would be cool.
And you'll hear good ones and you'll hear bad ones. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right? And in fact, we'll be listening to a few a little bit later. But the idea is that because spirits can't physically perhaps move something, it's easier to manipulate a sound wave, or perhaps, leave an electronic, transmission on a recording. Like, that is somehow easier. But that's what it is. And I thought what we could do today is go through a couple of different examples, because I do have some recordings of actual EVPs that I got from the internet. I also, folks, bought a spirit box off Amazon, and we're going to test it tonight.
Uh-huh.
Also, well, I'll say this for a little bit later. I do have a couple that I tried myself, and we'll get into that here just in a little tiny bit. But this idea of EVPs actually started by a man named Konstantin Raudiv. That's actually how you pronounce it. You'll hear it later. He was a Latvian psychologist who taught at Uppsala University in Sweden. He made over, get this, 100,000 recordings in various settings, including inside like a Faraday box, those RFID screening things or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. And he did these recordings under, scientific, like lab-controlled circumstances to try to get actual EVPs. And we'll be listening to a few here in a sec. But, this was a person who was,
that is so cool. That is really cool.
It was kind of like, you kind of think like, aha, funny, ghost hunters, EVP, whatever. No, we've been studying this now for decades, apparently. And in fact, this all came from one person named, Konstantin Raudiv, apparently. So, anyways, what I am going to try to do here, Phil, we're going to have to kind of maybe just watch the audio, because I'm going to put a clip on of some of the old Raudiv EVPs. So if you go on YouTube and you search for this guy, what you'll find are they're vinyl recordings that have been recorded to like YouTube, right? So somebody's just like holding up their phone. But they're the original recordings of some of these EVPs. And the ones that I picked are really clear. Like, it's really, really super clear. So these are very good ones, I will say. So
and I think you can buy them at solstirecords.com too.
You got this, right, Phil?
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. We've got like 10 copies.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, go to the website and look for them, I'm sure. Yes.
And if you leave it out at midnight, something will sign it by itself, and we can't explain it. All right, folks, let me give this a try. We're going to test the audio quickly here to make sure this works. But this is a recording from like 1968, and it was recorded on vinyl, so it's a little crackly. But anyways, you'll hear also there's a German translation in there because it's in German, evidently. So let's let it rip here.
The first voice is that of Margarete Petrowski, who had told the experimenter during her lifetime that she did not believe in an existence after death. After her passing, the experimenter asked her how she felt in the beyond, and a voice, identified as coming from Margarete, answered, "Bedenke, ich bin." German,
Bedenke, ich bin. Did you guys hear that?
"Imagine, I am." Again we hear Margarete Petrowski's voice, this time calling her former employer, Dr. Zenta Maurina. Zenta. Now the experimenter asked
Yeah, she was like singing, Santa.
I was good. Can you do
if
that again?
Margarete
Yeah.
can hear him, and the voice replies, Kostja, ja. German, Kostya, yes. The voice then calls the experimenter's family name, Raudive, but shortens it to Raudiv. And now we hear in Latvian and German, Koste, tu tik na. Koste, you are...
It cuts out right there. Yeah.
You can kind of hear that. Yeah, it's so faint.
It's hard on the overhead speakers, but obviously this will be a show we put out, right? So you can listen with your headphones on. These ones are really, really super clear. And again, in theory, under laboratory settings, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to explain.
So is he a professor, a doctor, or whatever? What's
Both.
it? Constantine?
Yeah, Constantine, yeah.
Okay, so is he actually asking a question and then
Here's-
the voice is responding?
Yeah, so here's where it gets a little bit complicated because he did so many recordings for these specifically. I can't tell you exactly how it was set up, but the idea was he was interviewing people all, throughout the years, talking about death and all that kind of thing. Had some of those questions ready to rock, and then of course, maybe after they passed and he was continuing some of this testing, was able to actually do this, and that's where these voices came from.
That's wild.
That's really wild. Yeah.
So I'll have to listen to that with headphones on, to be honest. But I mean,
Yeah.
I could kind of hear it. I could kind of hear it through the crackling.
The singing one was a little bit weird, but I thought the first one was really, really clear. I have a couple more modern examples, and this one's really short. So there was a YouTuber who was going out looking at a monastery and asking questions, and this one came through. This one's really clear too, but it's quiet, so I'll play it for you.
Can you tell me what year you think this is?
So what he says is, he asks, the ghost hunter asks the question, can you tell me what year you think this is? That's the question. And then it's almost like a whisper in the background. Just listen carefully. Go back a little bit here, guys. Sorry.
Can you tell me what year you think this is? I think I might have got something there. Can you tell me
One more time.
what year you think this is?
So
I heard
what
something.
he heard,
What does he hear?
Jesus.
It's not a real answer. Or maybe it is the real answer. I don't want to. Anyway.
So the idea here, why he said this was, why he believed this was a real EVP, was because this was in a monastery.
Oh.
And so a nun was replying. I guess I don't know why she didn't say like 1942, but
That would have been a
Jesus.
little bit more
Yeah.
clear, yeah. But
that one was really interesting. This last one, guys, I got to be honest, I chose because it's my name, and I thought it sounded pretty cool. So this is another YouTuber going out and checking for ghost EVPs. This might be a little louder. I'll turn it down.
Here's Zach.
As I ask this entity who it's connected to, it clearly says my full name.
Here's Zach.
We are all totally unprepared for what is about to be the most terrifying audio evidence we have ever collected.
of all
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So, well, that was pretty terrifying. You guys haven't gotten to the cool part yet. He was just saying my name, which I guess is.
Okay, look, I couldn't hear it. I'll be very
This-
honest with you.
This
I
was a
could
really
not
bad
hear
EVP,
it.
but I seriously chose it because he said my name. But if you listen, but I also drew this one out because if you listen to the recording, like if you listen with headphones on, you can kind of hear it, but also it's static. And so, is it static or is it Zach, right? But here is where it gets creepy. Hey, don't laugh. Come on. This is serious stuff.
Okay.
But this is where apparently the creepiest sound that's ever been recorded is happening. So you guys ready for
Okay.
this? All right. Hold on to your hats.
Are you connected to? What brought you here?
So he asked the question, I'll play it again. Are you connected to the spirits? What brought you here? And then he hears like a demon screaming, okay? Probably this one right here, actually. Shout out to Liquid Death. Hold on.
Unprepared for what is about to be the most terrifying audio evidence we have ever collected.
What name are you connected to? What brought you here?
Okay.
Proof?
That would freak me out. It would
actually
very much freak me out.
Now, I would say, okay, EVPs, because we're talking about sounds in the background, obviously. It's like if you're in a monastery, maybe somebody, nuns or monks are chanting somewhere, singing. You can kind of explain the Jesus one, maybe.
Yeah, honestly, like the whole thing, I don't know what the term is, but it sounds like an auditory, like pareidolia sort of thing. Like when you look at I don't know, you start to see faces. Like
Jesus is facing the toast.
Thank
right?
you.
The burrito,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. It's like your brain is conditioned to find an eye, eyes and a nose and a mouth and see that. It's evolutionary there. This sounds like just people trying to find what they're looking for, trying to hear what they're expecting to hear.
Yeah, I would say, that is kind of the number one issue with these, right? Which is like you're listening for something, you're trying to hear something, and it's totally open to interpretation. It could just as easily be, the vents turning on, and somehow your phone picks it up, and you think, oh, it's somebody communicating with you. That is the issue. Plus, the static stuff is hard, right? When you're listening, you just hear a bunch of static. It's like, okay, I think it said Zach, but I don't know. Could have been just as easily Tim. Okay. So, folks, that's why I thought we got to give it a go ourselves here. We got to try doing a live demonstration of a ghost box.
And this has never been done.
This has never been done in the history of the universe for podcasting, and that's what makes it so exciting tonight. This spirit box, what it is it's a way to pick up any sort of spirits trying to manipulate the frequencies and maybe send us messages. And we haven't tried this here at all, so we'll give it a shot.
Should we? Okay, we got to set the mood here.
We do have to set the mood. So before we jump in, we're gonna have to kind of do something with the lights here, and I think we'll get a candle going. Maybe give that a try. So we'll do a quick short kind of intermission here while we get this baby set up, and then we'll come back. We'll try it. And we'll see what happens. So how's that sound?
For those of you listening and not watching, we now have a near total darkness with one single candle lit at the table. So for those in the audience, let's try to get some silence if you can.
And let me explain what I'll do here. And I'll let you know, it's going to sound, it's hard to listen to, right? Because this ghost box, what it's doing is it's scanning frequencies, and we can ask it questions, and then what we'll do is we'll try to listen for a response. What I will do, though, is because we're recording everything, after the show, I will try to cancel out any extra noise that we get and post these to Patreon so we can actually listen to some of these clips, because it's really even after that you record them where you can hear certain things differently or more clearly. And so we'll try it. We might not hear anything now, but hey, give it a few days when I post this. I think we might hear something else, and it'd be interesting to get some thoughts. So,
All right, so if you can just... I just jumped 3.5 feet because the...
give us a sign.
Yes, I am afraid of a fan right now, okay? I'm agnostic. I'm still...
I don't know how.
I think it's okay. It's totally okay.
All right, so I just turned the ghost box on. It's just
So in your mind, picture perhaps a loved one, someone that's passed recently, that may want to talk to us, that may want to communicate.
Drink my bowl. Sure. Night.
Are there any spirits here who would like to communicate with us tonight? Are there any spirits out there that would like to communicate with us tonight? If you are a spirit and would like to communicate with us tonight, please make your presence known.
You find just.
I heard that. I have no idea what it said.
Any questions you'd like to ask them?
What year is it?
What year is it? So that's the spirit box. That's how it works.
That
And
is frustrating.
It's really frustrating, but I promise you guys, I will cut down the audio and I will post it next week, and it'll be really super, super interesting to hear what people have heard. And there were a few times where I felt like, and it's hard to hear back here because we're here, right? And you guys are out there. I'd be curious, and I know we can't really see you guys right now, but like, did anybody hear anything that like stood out or that like seemed suspicious? Go ahead.
Yeah.
It felt like there was like a hello or something, but it was like it just jumped instantly to some other stuff.
Exactly.
So I was like, was that someone like that catch words?
Right,
of,
right.
Like person, or was that just this radio tuner?
I mean, that's it, right? It's like, you never know, is it just a voice coming through on the radio saying hi anyways, or is it an actual spirit communicating? That's why it's good to have like kind of specific questions, or even just starting out like, what's your name? Starting out with, would you like to introduce yourself, or something like that can be helpful. Should we run it just one more time?
One more time.
Yeah,
Let's do it one more time.
Okay, so actually, how about this time, how about you lead it this time?
Okay.
Does anybody want to just lead it? Seriously, anybody want to try and just run the microphone and just ask questions? I can't see anybody raising hands, so I'll assume that's a no, unless
If I see
yes.
someone walk up, I'll yield the floor. Otherwise, okay, go for it.
Okay. Well, I'll ask the spirit box if it wants to run the spirit box. And if we get a yes, then I guess we know. All right, here we go.
Okay, so
Are there any spirits here tonight that would like to communicate with us? Are there any spirits here who would like to make their presence known? If so, what is your name? Please state your name.
It's okay.
All right. So we'll end it there, and like I said, we'll go back and we'll listen to this, and I'll be curious to get feedback on it. But guys, I got to tell you like a real, actual, true story here, like about what happened last night. Like this is 100% not kidding, not joking around here. This is like, I'll just tell you the story of what happened. So, knowing this was going to be the idea of the show was to run a ghost box. And also trying it, like, and just understanding it's difficult from an audio standpoint. It's like, how's this really going to work? So I thought, there's really only one good way to make this work.
what?
So I did it myself. And here's what I did, guys. I'm not making this up. This is 100% true. Last night, I went to a cemetery.
Did you really?
I seriously did.
Did you tell me
Completely
this?
dead serious, guys. Hey-o.
God.
I really actually did. So my house is just a few minutes from a cemetery. I thought, hey, what could possibly
Is it the
go
one
wrong?
on 42 or whatever?
It's the haunted one, yeah. On
The
42.
haunted one on 42. Okay. I know that one.
And I got there, and it was, I mean, this sounds bad. It was busy, and I was like, I'm there with like this thing and my Zoom recorder and my headphones, and I'm just in like a little jacket, and I'm like,
That's not cool.
yeah, it looks bad. It's not a good look. So then what I thought, you know what, you can't go too far probably, or have to go too far to find a ghost around here. So then I Googled the most haunted places in Minnesota. And what came up, number one, luckily or unluckily, 30 minutes from my house, the Gray Cloud Island Cemetery. Gray Cloud Island.
Where is that?
So it is about 30 minutes from downtown St. Paul. It's an island. I don't know if it's the St. Croix at that point or the Mississippi. I always get kind of confused where they come together. And it's an island, very, very small, and you can get to it just by driving there. But it's actually one of the places where there's a lot of settlers' gravestones there, like some of the early settlers in Minnesota. Also some Native American burial mounds out there. And so it's literally a graveyard, and it's like very well known to be haunted.
That you did this last night?
I seriously did this last night. I drove all by myself, and I went there, and I just thought, you know what? I know. I will be honest, I was more worried about my safety than I was about the actual ghosts, like my personal safety, because I'm like, I don't even know where I am right now. But I did it, folks, and it was weird. It was.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean it was weird?
Well, first of all, I will say, did anybody, if you were in Minnesota last night, I actually have a video of the road. The sun was setting. There's clouds. I mean, it looked like a Hollywood Halloween like backdrop. It couldn't have been more cliche.
You're gonna pull up the video.
I'm gonna try to. I know it's like on my phone, but whatever.
Everyone
guys.
gather around his phone.
At this point, you know what, guys? I'm excited about this, and I want to share it with you guys. So let me pull this up here. Just give me a sec. And it was just stinking creepy. Give me a sec here to just make sure this plays. I know it's hard to see, but and also I got to do this, so it flips over. Okay.
So I mean, the mood was weird.
The mood was super weird. And sorry, I'm just getting this thing to adjust. So this is me. You know, you don't see me, but it's the road. It's driving down. It's dark. It's two lanes, and there's
I've never
like
even heard of it. What is a gray?
Gray Cloud Island.
I've never heard of this.
They also say it's not open to the public.
Yeah.
Someone may or may not be admitting to a misdemeanor on the podcast.
You know what? If any EVP, if we pick up an EVP that says you're under arrest, folks, we know it's conclusive proof.
The ghost cops got you.
It was the creepiest place I've ever been. Just like even, I would say it felt like the bayou in Minnesota. Like I don't know how to
Like the
describe it.
bayou,
Yeah,
like Louisiana,
Like Louisiana, like there's trees coming out of the water, and like there are these bridges, but they're not bridges, and you're going over these really small bodies of water, and there are people driving trucks around everywhere, and there's people like fishing off the road and drinking beer, and it's just a very weird place. Like it's just weird. I know in Wisconsin, perhaps that's normal.
We
But I
don't
will
drink
tell you-
beer in Wisconsin. That's I don't know any or fish or anything. Yeah, no.
But I would say, like, even like ghosts aside, just driving there after dark was stinking weird.
Wow.
And I felt very uncomfortable. And so I pulled up to the graveyard. Guys, I'm serious. I'm not making this up. And I took out my little spirit box, took out my Zoom recorder, my headphones. I had a little headlamp on. And I walked in. Turns out the fence is only about this big, so you can literally just walk around the fence and then actually go in. I didn't go very far in though, guys, because obviously I was like more worried about trespass and the locals than I was about the spirits at that point. But still, it was stinking weird. Okay, so here is what we'll do. It's tough, obviously, with EVPs, but I'm telling you guys, there's a couple things that I heard in here, and I want to try to like draw them out a little bit. And so to set the stage, weather again creepy. It's dark. It's on an island. It's just like sparsely populated. It's 30 minutes from downtown St. Paul. It's super rural. And then what I did is I just ran the ghost box. And so the first audio that I will play for you guys is going to sound like a mess. It's going to sound like nothing, okay? And that's on purpose. So then what I did is I cleaned up the audio, and I have a couple other files where we can listen. And I want to kind of get your guys' feedback on what you hear, and then I'll tell you what I think I heard using Pro Tools and like my audio stuff. So here's the first clip. Again, it's going to sound like nonsense, but I want to let you guys know just kind of what it sounds like if you just go out and try this kind of a thing. So here's the actual raw EVP, and maybe I'll play it twice. I think it's only a minute, but it's just garbly, okay? So don't expect much for this one. Oh, sorry, I got to plug this thing back in. And it's hard to hear me, but in the background I'm asking questions, the exact same questions I asked here. I said, you know, are there any spirits? Would you like to make yourself known? What's your name? That type of a thing. So here we go. Oops. Let's start that over. Here we go.
That's good.
Everybody out here want to make themselves known. These spirits here want to make themselves known. Are there any spirits out there that come in peace? If so, what is your name? I don't know why I said I heard that, but if so, what is your name? Can you say that again? Please announce your name. I'm here. Would you like to communicate with me? Would you like to communicate with us? If there's any spirits here, please make yourself known. Do you have a name? Okay, so that's the file. That's just the raw file. It sounds like garbage. But I saw a few of you kind of like perk up a little bit when you think you might have heard something, right? So the next file that I play, same thing, except for I tried to get out as much of the wind as I could, and when I tried to ask questions, I tried to like break apart the stereo so you could hear my questions and then any potential responses. So I'll play that before we go to the next couple of clips here. So this is the one that has less noise, but it's still not perfect, just heads up. Spirits out here want to make themselves known.
All of you. Earth and my
Do any spirits here want to make themselves known? Are there any spirits out here? I come in peace. If so, what is your name? I don't know why I said it like that, but if so, what is your name? Can you say that again? Please announce your name. I'm here. Would you like to communicate? Would you like to communicate? If there's any spirits here, please make yourself known. Do you have a name? Okay.
Number 9.
Nice. Noise. Okay, so before we go, guys, I found 4 EVPs, according to me, when I was listening. Like last night, I had these babies on. I had using Pro Tools, trying to get all the noise extracted, all that stuff. And I thought I picked out 4 distinct EVPs in there. And I'll play those, and they're really clean. And I'll be curious to get your feedback, and if you heard the same thing as me. Before I go any further, anybody hear anything that they want to call out quickly? You got one?
And I think a couple bit later, you're like, and then someone like checked him and said, "I'm here."
Somebody else heard something like that?
Whoa. You guys have better ears than me.
Yeah, Tim's never heard these before.
The burial list right now.
Oh, well, actually, yeah, check that because I do have 2 names in my EVPs. Okay, so the first EVP that I thought I heard, like, again, with headphones on last night and tried to clean it up, I'll play it for you guys first, and I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are in terms of what you hear. I won't tell you what I heard. Okay, so I want to know what you guys hear. And these are like 5-second clips, so these are all short. Here we go. This is the first one. Do any spirits here want to make themselves known? Okay, I'll play that one again. It's very faint. Do any spirits here want to make themselves known?
Father?
So, Arthur? I've heard Father, Arthur. What else have we heard? Victor? So I heard closer. I heard the word closer when I was listening with headphones on. And that to me was significant only because I wasn't really super far into the cemetery, right? I was like kind of on the periphery of it. And I was like, okay, maybe that's an invitation to come closer. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't hear it live, so when I was standing there, it made no difference, right? But it was later, I was like, geez, I heard closer. I'll be honest with you guys.
Wow.
Which was kind of weird.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody who's named closer would be a guess of mine. But the next one that I heard is an actual name. And I think this is when I say, if you remember the first clip that I played, I think I said, can you say it again or something like that? And this is from this person saying it. So let's run this one. Can you say that again? Sorry? Again, Clayton? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I heard it again.
No way. You guys serious? I'm cool with that. Let me play it again. Who am I to tell the dead what their names are? Okay. Here we go. Can you say that again? I heard it for the first time. I'm not kidding you. So I thought in there, if you listen right after Clayton, I hear the name Mike.
I hear Mike. Okay.
Right at the end.
I hear Mike.
Boom.
You're asking a lot of people. There is so many people.
Yeah, I mean,
It's maybe all of them, man. They're all trying to. That's why it sounds so garbled.
The S's and there's 23 pages.
Oh, jeez.
so obviously they're just trying to communicate. Okay, it's cool. But I heard Mike, and I think some of you guys heard. So Clayton, I want to go back now and actually dig into this because that's super interesting. But there's this like split second at the end where I swear I hear Mike. And I just want to play it one more time because this one kind of creeps me out. Can you say that again? Right there. Mike? Okay. The next one, I won't say what I heard, but this one also creeped me out a little bit later. If there's any spirits here, please make yourself known.
Oh, but
I'll play that one again. If there's any spirits here, please make yourself known.
oh, but
Anybody hear something towards the end there?
I hear it. I don't know what it says.
What are you guys hearing there? Huh? Oh, guys, they're saying go away.
Do it again.
I'm dead serious. Yeah, listen carefully. Towards the end, you'll hear "go away." I'm dead serious. Sorry, I'm not making that as a joke. 100% serious. Here we go. It's right towards the end. I'll kind of cue up in the air when I think I hear it. If there's any spirits here, please make yourself known.
oh, but
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh God,
Right there.
yeah.
I know that's well, okay, whatever. Yeah, but I heard that one. The last one, and that one was kind of creepy too. The last one I heard that was a name, and unfortunately it's a common name too. But we'll try this one, and it's right at the very end. It was like I turned the recording off as soon as I picked it up, but I didn't realize, at the moment that I had picked it up. So it's right at the very end. I'll just tell you right now. Here we go. Do you have a name? Right at the end, there was a name that I heard. I'll play it again. I know it's hard to hear. Oh, ha! Happy accident. Whoa, that's creepy. You guys hear that too?
What
Heard a wolf?
was that? A
Thunder?
werewolf? Oh my God!
Jeez, what are the odds? Man, that's a good ghost box. Okay.
I didn't hear that the first time.
All of a sudden it makes sense, yeah. Okay, I guess they're communicating with us right now. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. Do you have a name?
I hear it, but I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
any guesses what you guys might have heard at the end? Okay, one more time, because I heard the name that I heard out there too also. Let me try one more time. I'll make sure it's the right clip. Do you have a name? What'd you guys hear? So I heard Steve too. Okay. I mean, it could be Andy too, right? But I heard Steve. Like that to me was clear. Right, like right at the end, it was like, Steve.
I heard Laurel, and I also heard Yanni. Okay. Oh, all right. That is weird, though, man. That is really weird. So, without going into too much technical jargon, like when you say you cleaned up the audio file, are you really just like taking out certain frequencies, or what are you doing?
No, so all I did was I really just tried to raise and lower the volume because it comes in as like the track from the spirit guide, comes in as a track from my vocals, and I just try to clear out the noise in between, and that's it. So I didn't do anything to the frequencies. I never edited like any certain points. I just tried to make it so it's at least audible because like, again, one of the problems with EVPs, and if you go out and look online, it's like it's just hard to tell, like or hard to hear what they're saying. So that was my attempt at making it a little bit tighter, a little bit cleaner. But if you listen, I'm dead serious, guys. Next week I'll post these. Take a listen. Put your headphones on. Sorry, I'm not trying to make that as a joke. You'll hear things, and it's weird.
Okay, so because we do this every week or whatever, I feel like I need to ask you, like after doing this live, after doing it last night in a haunted graveyard. Seriously, like you did this.
Yeah, I actually did.
Oh my God!
It felt
so
weird, guys.
wild.
I got to be honest.
That
It felt
is
weird.
so wild.
But
Okay,
I
no,
did it
but seriously,
for
do you believe it, and what percentage do you believe this?
in terms of EVPs.
In terms of like that
This
little
spirit
box thing you got there, yeah, EVPs specifically.
I don't know. And I say that because I've heard some convincing EVPs. This one specifically, I mean, as I said, I got it off Amazon. Okay, it's like it's a spirit box. Let's just try it. But I don't see why it's any different from any of the other ones out there. So
Right.
I guess like the examples that I had. Look, it was my first time ever trying anything like that. I've never even like lit a candle and said something into a microphone to like chant or whatever. It's like this is just the first time I tried something. So I'm a beginner.
Yeah.
I don't know if I were to
Yeah.
do again, maybe I could get something better. It doesn't feel great though, walking around a graveyard at like 10,
I'm
10 o'clock.
going to take your word for that.
You're welcome to join me. Anybody's welcome to join me on these in the future.
Maybe next time. No, I mean, honestly, okay, so like before we did this, if you were to ask me that question, I would have been like, yeah, 0%. Because what you're literally scanning radio frequencies. It's like you can hear, 96.5 and you can hear, the NPR station and all that. And then you do hear static, but so much of it honestly seems like it's just you trying to hear what you want to hear.
I think that is the issue.
That's
right?
the rub. That's the issue.
And sorry to cut you off, but I think where it gets particularly interesting is where it's like a voice that doesn't sound like it's consistent with the others. Right?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So if I didn't know that, if we didn't do this literally in the moment right now, I would have been at like a big fat 0. And now I'm at like, well, I mean, shoot, if they're going to try to communicate, maybe this is an easier way. And I don't know. I'm uncomfortable putting it like more than 5%, but just literally the fact that I'm above 0 says a lot. So like, that's creepy. That is really weird.
It is. And if we were to do this again, I think, or under different circumstances, perhaps maybe even better audio. It was windy last night, so that really kind of made it difficult. But I'm putting the idea of an EVP being real.
Yeah.
Ugh. Guys, help me out here. 20%? 30? 20 to 30?
Wow.
I don't know. The ghost stuff is weird to me. Like, it's just weird. I never really know how to assign a percentage to it.
Yeah. It's
It's
there's a lot to unpack there. There really is.
So that's really creepy. But guys, to kind of come back to the science of this a little bit, perhaps maybe if we're going to let some in, because I think we all picked up on the same issue together, which is as soon as somebody suggests something, and then it's so much easier to pick it out. Super interesting study done by Michael Nees and Charlotte Phillips of Lafayette College, and they did a very similar type of thing. But they didn't tell the participants what they were going to be doing. They just said, hey, tell us if you hear something. And actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. Half thought they were doing just a run-of-the-mill, listen to this, tell us what you hear. It's more for like, AI noise stuff, and we're just trying to help, improve science. The other half was told that they're actually going to be listening for voices of the dead, right? So the two different groups, one control group being, hey, just listen, tell us what you hear. The other being like, hey, we think these are dead people talking to you. This is where it gets pretty interesting. So compared to the control condition, the suggestion of a paranormal research topic made people more likely to report hearing voices for both the EVP and the voices hidden in noise. So about 48% versus 34%. So when people were told to be looking or listening for like a paranormal voice, that's when they heard it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is where it's like, okay, EVPs, if they were told they were listening to human speech, 99% of the times the humans heard the speech and confirmed exactly what they heard. It was only when they were not sure what they were hearing is when they were confused. But of course, when they were prompted that, hey, these are ghosts or voices from the dead, that's when they answered more definitively that they heard these voices.
I believe it.
So that's weird. But to kind of come around the corner here on this, guys, because I think that it wouldn't be right in an era of digital connected devices, Facebook, Instagram, artificial intelligence, deep fakes, all this stuff. The future of talking to the dead might look entirely different, and it might look like your great grandma or whatever the case may be, because right now there are startups that are offering services where you actually, as a person, sit down and record answers to like 30 or 40,000 questions. And the idea is these questions are answered, oftentimes videotaped, and then they're stored. And then, of course, through AI, deepfakes, technology, hologram stuff, the idea is in the future, after somebody passes, you can sit down and basically have an interactive experience with somebody who's dead. And although it was from when they were alive, the idea is still kind of continuing.
Oh, that is really fascinating and also very creepy. Potentially unethical too. But no, if I'm hearing you right, it's like, you don't have to ask one of the 40,000 questions that they answered.
Correct.
but through AI and through computer learning and everything,
Yep.
they would be able to figure out what you would probably say. And because you've said every single sound that the human mouth can make, they can just replicate your voice to answer it that way. So you would just literally be talking to the dead.
Right.
That's would you do that? Would you
Well-
put yourself in front of a camera and answer all those questions?
So here's the issue that I have. Two actually. I would love to hear, my great grandpa, who I've never met, right, who immigrated here from Sweden. Like, I would love to have, some sort of interactive experience like that. Honestly, or George Washington,
Sure, right.
Abraham Lincoln. Why not? That would be so sweet. And Timothy Jerome, I got to say, man, we both have been putting digital content out there for 300 episodes or whatever, and so in some ways, some of this stuff lives on beyond us.
We're a precursor.
Like,
whether we
cool
like
before.
it or not, people are going to be talking to us, 400 years from now.
Yeah. So I guess to answer the question specifically, I wouldn't do it for myself. Obviously, it'd be like, okay, well maybe I'll
Maybe,
be
yeah.
a great grandkid out there, great whatever, right? Where it's like, oh, what was life like in? I almost said like '98. I guess 2021, everybody.
Wow.
What would you do?
Would I do it?
Yeah, answer questions,
I don't know.
participate.
Potentially. Seems like an awful lot of time. You have to sit down and do that. But I mean, maybe for posterity's sake.
I think it'd be kind of interesting. So then coming back to the question of like communication, life after death, I got to ask you, Tim, where do you come down on all this stuff? Just in general, like from the start, you were more or less open to the idea.
Mm-hmm. That's
Now-
a really big, that is the question.
That
That's
is
what
the
you're
actual
asking.
question, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's who knows? Who knows? There's so much out there, and there's so many unanswered questions. It's impossible to talk about some of these things without just at least having kind of an open mind about it. But I will still remain firmly agnostic on the afterlife communication aspect of it. But it sounds like you're all in.
I'm not sure. I'm still like 15-20%ish, something like that.
More than me.
Yeah, right. And also be curious to hear now the recording of the spirit box. when I
That
get a
will be
chance to
wild.
unpack it,
Dude,
so.
that's going to be awesome.
And who knows? What if we all hear the same thing? Proof.
All right, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for coming out to the show. Thank you for our wonderful, gracious host, solstarecords.com. Give them another round of applause. Check out their website. Order some records, CDs, T-shirts, tapes, you name it. They will send it to you. And thank you all for tuning in. Honestly, thank you for another wonderful Halloween Spooktacular. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your local clairvoyant about our podcast, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you guys. No, seriously, you guys rock.
Thank you.
You guys, like,
Honestly, thank you all.
super humbling to have people here. Like, 100%. Can't thank you guys enough. Like, seriously.
And we need some lights because I'm getting freaked out. There we go.
Fire
Thank you.
hazard. There we go.